Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Damn right we're here. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. You know, nothing's shocking anymore. Michael Malone and Calvin Booth, and maybe not so much Calvin Booth. He was the general manager since 2023 when the Nuggets won it all. They have lost a lot of personnel, but the problem is you have to pay some personnel too, so you have to find a collective balance. Jamal Murray is injured. They have Nikola Jokic, who is, I think, the MVP of the season this year. So the Nuggets fire Michael Malone and Calvin Booth, their head coach and general manager, today. You just can't wait until you're done with the postseason. Maybe that would make a little bit more sense, but today? So who was salty about him? Who was salty about the head coach? Would this be a Jokic salty situation? Because somebody had to be salty. Did they not? What's the expectation level there? I happen to think Michael Malone is a really good coach, and if I were a team out there and needed somebody, I'd bring his ass in immediately. If I could do it immediately, and if he wanted to, which he probably doesn't. Well, you know what I mean. He's just a good coach. I think he's a good coach. So I can't wait to find out. Brian Windhorst can tell us here relatively soon who ended up. Because here's how you think about it right now. The blue and gold sang those two a lullaby on Sunday. How about that? I guess that was enough. Pacers roll into the Ball Center, win on Sunday night. Enough is enough. We got to do something about it. Which Kroenke runs things there? Josh Kroenke. Didn't Josh Kroenke play? Jake would probably know this because Jake spent a lot of time in St. Louis. Didn't Josh Kroenke, vice chairman of Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, didn't he play guard at Missouri? And the reason why he was there is because he had a bunch of cash. Or his family did. Josh Kroenke. Quote, this decision was not made lightly. It may not be made lightly, but maybe it was made stupidly. Who knows, right? I mean, maybe Jokic is behind it. Maybe there are players that are behind it, but odd timing. I think this is even more awkward than last week with Taylor Jenkins. Because at least right there, you knew you had a general manager and you had a head coach that were not fond of one another. And that place is just a powder keg of something ready to explode anyway. But this, especially final week of the regular season, that is some weird, wild stuff right there. But again, never be surprised because we live in a world when nothing in sports like this any longer surprises us, right? How surprised were you last night? Final 3 possessions. Can you imagine if you saved up, if you were Houston, and you said, all right, we're going to have our worst 3 possessions of the season. And this is just me. I didn't watch every game, every moment. I'm not quite sure, but I'm just guessing. Those were a lack of quality possessions, especially the final 2. Would you say, you know what, let's save all these up and we'll just go ahead and dump them out here right at the end of the national championship game? Because it looked like they were playing in early October in practice in a pickup game. And as I told Jake, if I were sharp, I would have just grabbed a basketball and acted like nothing occurred. That's really the only choice you had right there because everything else, and you were probably screwed all the way around. Kelvin Sampson called the ending incomprehensible. And that's exactly what it was. Incomprehensible. The magnitude of the game and winning a national title is one thing. Let's face it, it was far from picturesque. If you're somebody that really, like me, digs on jump shooting ability, especially in the first half, it was a brutality on jump shooting ability. And I mentioned this to Jake. You could shut your eyes and just listen to how bad the shooting was. If it were outside of 12 feet, there wasn't anybody making a damn thing. And not only were you not making anything, but you were probably going to crack the glass backboard with your asteroid-like jumper. These guys were throwing hand grenades. It was ugly. Now, the competition was there, and believe me, that's what Houston brings to the table. And you saw Florida try to match that early. That didn't work. They got down double figures. But the one thing that they have done against Texas Tech and against others in this tournament is they fight back. Does anybody that follows, whether it's IU or Purdue, and obviously Purdue played Houston, so you know they can hang. Do you ever put your team in terms of how they would handle that level of physicality? Because it's just not like some big strong guy, putting you in a headlock or something like that. It's not. Wrestling match is the wrong way to describe it. It is just hacking and slapping. That's what the entire time. There was one play where I think the CBS crew, it may have been Raftery, maybe it was Grant Hill, said, I didn't see a lot there. Well, it's because you're so used to seeing these guys get slapped and hacked to death. There was a lot there. There was a lot there in the past. There wasn't a lot there last night because that is, we say this all the time, you want to be the team to dictate the tempo. That's what Houston does. And you give all the credit in the world to Kelvin Sampson because he puts pieces on his team that fit what he wants to do. They fit. All these guys fit. They're all interchangeable parts, and they fit. And really, that is the era in which we're in right now in college athletics and especially in college basketball. You don't go, or at least I don't think you should go into the transfer portal and you got this, hey, I'm Mr. Moneybags, and I got, what do they call it now, the war chest? If I have to hear that again, I'm going to barf. Hey, the war chest. But you have all this money, you're swinging around, and you're giving it to everybody, and that is absolutely great. But as we saw at IU a year ago, you can have individually talented dudes, but if they do not fit together, good luck. Like, if you were to ask Miles Turner this, it's like putting together something Lego-wise, and it kind of looks like what it's supposed to look like, but it's not completely accurate. And honestly, it's not effective. So really, it's like putting together some kind of Lego thing, and you want to make sure in the fullest detail you get those right pieces. And I'll give credit with Kelvin Sampson. That's exactly what Kelvin Sampson does. All those dudes fit exactly what he wants to do. They all do the same thing. And they mentioned it a number of times. And believe me, it's not lost on me. They do a lot of things defensively that's incredibly accurate. Very right. Like, their help side defense is nuts. I don't even know if these guys have to talk. It's like they know what one another will be doing every play. I don't even know. I mean, I'm assuming they do talk out there. But yeah, they're never lost on, well, there's somebody going unimpeded to the basket because I forgot to swing over and help. And these guys must be drilled like crazy. Like the rest of us are out there shooting free throws and using the gun and shooting jumpers, and they're over there doing shell drills and help side defense. Remember that? You guys ever go through practice where, like, there was one half of your team, you were doing defensive slides and shell drills and stuff, working on help side defense, and the others are down on the other end half-assing it, shooting free throws and jump shots on the gun? That's kind of what Houston is like, I would guess, compared to everybody else. I'm not suggesting they don't have talent. But, being overall rated in the transfer portal or that incredibly talented is not their criteria. Are they going to fit? Especially in this world. In this world of the transfer portal and NIL, you got to make sure these pieces fit. So hopefully for IU and what Darren DeVries is trying to put together, what do they got now, 4? What he is trying to put together is going to end up fitting, especially for what they do. That's what matters. And I think obviously we know what Matt Painter wants out of things and how he wants things to fit. Last night was a great example of that, and it's also not lost on me that Todd Golden really does the same thing. When Michael Clayton Jr., Iona, that Richard kid was from Belmont, mix in 3 bigs, backup point guard. That was good to go and helping out a little bit. I mean, really nobody was going to be a standout shooter last night. But I will give them credit, man. They hang in, and what you have to do against Houston is you have to battle absolutely everything. It's like I was talking about with Miles the other night versus Jokic. I mean, you not only have to battle Jokic, and he's going to go for an incredible triple-double on your ass, but then you got to make sure your countermeasure, your counter move is to be able to get yours on him. That's how you help. Now, you don't hang your head and say, man, I can't believe baby Huey just took my ass to the hoop once again. You got to go to the other end, and you got to make Huey work. That's what Florida did late. And especially defensively. They got down to business defensively. And honestly, they made Houston look as discombobulated as you might seem the first week of practice in those final 2 to 3 possessions. That looked like, hey, you know what? It's October and we're getting started with practice right now. That's what that looked like. And so much of that was due to obviously trying to counter what Florida was doing late. And what Florida was doing late was exactly what Houston was doing the entirety of the game. This is incredible. It's good stuff. I mean, it really is. Hey, listen, it's not anything that jumps off the page. It's not picturesque by any stretch. Nobody's going to say that was a beautiful basketball game. But it was a move and counter move, measure and counter measure. And it was certainly some adapting. There was some interesting stuff going on last night for real. National championship game, we can talk about that maybe a little bit with Greg Rexstraw. I did want to ask Greg this, and he's going to join us at 3:30, right, James? So maybe this happens every year, and I kind of find myself in these situations. I go, oh, wow. Like the moment in which we live is the greatest play, the greatest crossover, the greatest jumper, the greatest dunk. It all happens because we're living in this moment right now. And then we end up flopping out instantaneously this opinion without thinking about it. And then if you think about it a little bit more, you would understand that, yeah, there's not a lot different from now to the past. We are just living in that particular moment. That makes sense? So I don't know, are we living in the moment? Is it just me, or does it seem like that coaches in this particular year, high school basketball, for the exit strategy is incredible. It just seems like that there are a lot more coaches saying the hell with this than ever. Is that me? Am I living in the moment, or is that true? And I thought if there is somebody to ask about this that would know more than anybody else, it is certainly going to be Greg Rakestraw. It seems like it's been an avalanche of coaches deciding not to return. And some coaches that have been around there, like the Newcastle coach had been there for like 12 years. Like 12 years is an eternity now. I was thinking about this with Tom Bradley of Orleans, who took home in Class A the title a couple of weeks ago. 26 years in Orleans, that is like 3 lifetimes now, it seems, in coaching. That didn't used to be the case. But like 3 lifetimes it is. At least the way that it feels. I didn't know if anybody else felt that way or not. But that is certainly it. We'll ask Greg Rakestraw about it. It just seems like that every time I'm on Facebook, and I apologize, I can't remember who it is, but somebody runs this high school basketball Facebook page, and they keep you updated, and I'll occasionally see it. It just seems like it's nonstop. This coach has decided to resign. This coach is moving on. And it's not even that they're getting fired. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Michael Malone. I think that's nuts because I think he's a good coach. He is a championship-level coach. That has to be something with a player. So do you immediately at the high school level think it has to be something with the parents? And you can say that it's twofold. You can say, yeah, it's the parents, but maybe you got parents on the school board. Where I went to high school, the parents were on the school board, and most of the time it was a mess. There was no better theater than going to a school board meeting in Greene County back in the day. I mean, it was high count because you'd have one or two people that wanted to get the hell out of there with the head coach. And it was some brilliant theater. We'll ask Greg Rakestraw about that coming up at the bottom of the hour. And who's doing well so far in the transfer portal? I look at IU, and, it's a work in progress. And I know a lot of people were upset. But remember how excited you were a year ago when they were cashing out, I should say, and bringing in all these names, and this is your high ranking of the transfer portal, and you saw how that worked out. And as I mentioned, what you really need to do is put together a team that best fits how you want to perform and what you want to do. I'll be honest with you, I didn't pay 1 ounce of attention to DePaul. Shout out to Chris Holtman last year and that Enright kid. But I did pay attention when he was knocking down a game-changing 3 in the Missouri Valley Conference Championship game against Indiana State a year ago. I did remember that. And that was him. That was him, and I still cuss him. But it is about the pieces. I just wonder where IU fans are right now. Are you okay with the pieces? Because I know you were incredibly excited last year with these big portal names. And the big portal names didn't work out. Also, I might add this. Is it more about Darren DeVries going after the type of player that he wants or going after other players that have decided to go someplace else? Our good friend Dane Fife about last night's national championship game, and we'll go over some transfer portal stuff with Dane coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. Daenerys here, the Wizards and the Pacers. What is the point spread? 18.5-point favorite on the Pacers later on tonight? Man, 18.5 in an NBA game. And it's weird, too, right? I sit here and tell you right now there's no way I'm going to take that. And if you go back to Friday night, in the first half, I was telling everybody on the social media platform X how ridiculous that first half of play was by the Pacers. You cannot have it that way. They end up winning by 35 or something. I can't believe how they're playing. This is awful. And they win by 35. So on one hand, I kind of wonder if this would be one to go with. On the other, yeah, man, I think it's 18.5. Is that right, James? 18.5? What?
18.5, yep.
That's crazy. Like the song Crazy. How many songs have the word crazy on the title, James? What do you got?
I mean, there's Crazy Train.
Crazy Train. There's Crazy by Seal.
Mm-hmm.
Is there Crazy by, what's that guy's name? That Gnarls Barkley? Is that his name? Gnarls Barkley?
I have
Crazy?
no idea.
Mama, We're All Crazy Now. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Crazy Love. Crazy For You, Madonna. I'm really good at this game,
you
James,
are.
right here. That's incredible. I just gave you there's some stations out there, and I just gave your playlist. That's their playlist right there, because they only play about 5 songs. Yes?
You got I'm a Little Crazy by Morgan Wallen.
You know, I've never heard a Morgan Wallen song in my life.
I don't think I have either.
So does that make me a dork? I should say, does that make us a dork?
I'm already
am
a
I
dork.
missing out? And it's not because it's Morgan Wallen. It's because I just don't really dig on the whole new country thing. If we're like Merle Haggard, I'd probably listen to it. But I've never heard one note of a Morgan Wallen song, at least from what I've known. Does that make me a dork?
If it makes you a dork, then I'm a dork.
Well, that goes with that.
Crazy, Crazy Nights by Kiss.
Crazy Nights by Kiss. All right, anyway, I got that coming up. Greg Rakestraw, bottom of the hour. Kristen Airy is going to join us, too. The Wizards, a crazy stat, is 18.5-point favorite at home against the Wizards. If you watched the Pistons last night, how about Sacramento back-to-back on the road? And I mean back-to-back from Sunday night, I guess late Sunday afternoon on the road in Cleveland, a win, and then Detroit last night. Impressive. Redlegs got a win. Shout out to Hunter Green. If there was a team that needed the pitching performance and a win, anything at all to feel good about, because it did seem like old times again with the Reds so far. It was Hunter Green and the Reds last night in San Francisco. Same 9:45 later on tonight. Ladololo toes the rubber for the Redlegs today at 9:45. 2 games, actually 1 game already in the books. It was the Tigers blanking the Yankees 5-0 in the toilet a little bit earlier today. All right, we got a lot for you, including national championship chatter. 239-1070 is that number. We're looking for you right there. Greg Rakestraw, Dane Fife, and Kristen Airy all on the show. Blink 182 tickets we shall give away a little bit later on. That is coming as well. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Hey, do not go anywhere. If you do go someplace, dial 239-1070, and we'll talk it up. We'll talk it up and walk it up on this Tuesday. Thank you all for joining us. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
But there's no way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, there it is right there. This is crazy. I left out Patsy Cline. You got to sue me for that one, I guess, right? I mean, listen, I gave you 12 right off the top of my head. Do I not get an ounce of credit for that? You guys for listening, too. Blink 182 tickets a little bit later on. Dane 5, top of the hour. Kristen Aries got the call. Wizards, Pacers coming up later on tonight. Pacers closing in on that 4-seed home court first round of the postseason. More than likely right now. The Bucks, we'll see, because the Pistons and the Bucks do see one another twice here in the final week of the regular season. We'll talk about that and then some with Kristen Aries coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, our good friend Greg Rakestraw joins us, who actually called in on Saturday and requested one of my favorite songs of the 1980s. At lead, vocalist Mike Peters and The Alarm and Rain in the Summertime. Absolutely love that song, Greg. Well done.
Well, I appreciate that. How many Rain-themed songs did you think you played on Saturday night?
Oh, a ton. I played The Rain by Orange Juice Jones, that song by The Alarm. I played Caught in the Rain by Revis. I played No Rain by Blind Melon. Blame It on the Rain by, Milli Vanilli. There was, I could go on. The Rain by Madonna. There's a ton of Rain songs out there.
No, did you play Eddie Rabbit on Saturday night?
I love a rainy night. It got requested too. Incredible stuff. But no, that was a hell. I love that song. It's kind of a lost classic, I think, from the 1980s.
I would agree with that, and that is one of the joys of obviously your show. But that song is on somewhat of a regular rotation on Sirius XM First Wave, so that is how it is. Stayed alive in the synapses of my brain.
Yeah, I know it. And listen, that's why every Saturday night we keep stuff like that alive too, when nobody else does, right? We probably
Absolutely
just named off more songs than some of your local music stations' playlists have in their catalog just now. So it goes to show you how deep we go every Saturday night.
All stuff that I am filing away for rain delay theater if needed, with knowing that IMSPA shifts are not that far away.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I wanted to ask you this, because if there's somebody that would know, you would. It seems like after the end of this season, last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend prior, the state titles were all won 4 times over. I'm curious, does it seem like coaches now more than ever are stepping away from their posts, or is this kind of the same number? It's just we're living in the moment right now.
There have been a lot of them that have acknowledged it, and maybe a lot of them that are at places where they have been successful, and it's not like they're being forced out. So I think what this is an acknowledgement of is just how much is required of the position at this point, and the amount of time that you have to spend kind of away from your family in doing it. And maybe more and more guys are prioritizing that instead of continuing on into the profession. So I do think it is happening at a faster rate. And again, what strikes me, a lot of the guys that are stepping away from it now, they are doing so from positions where they're not being pressured or forced out.
Yeah, that's the way that it seemed. It didn't seem like that there was some school board meeting with influential parents on it. It just seemed like, all right, hey, enough is enough. And some of these are a little bit surprising.
Correct. You know, one of the ones that caught a lot of folks' attention locally was Hamilton Southeastern. Now, has John Ashworth's teams, say, been as successful as, say, their school, counterparts in Fishers? No. But, like, for example, HSE graduated their top scorer. Everybody else comes back. A lot of us is like, hey, next year they're going to be pretty good. I don't know the family side of things with Luke, and I was Meredith at Greenfield Central. Obviously, a bit of a reset at Greenfield without having Braylon Mullins there next year. The one that has been, kind of popping all over my feed from a boys' standpoint is Doc Nash after 19 years at Borden, winning a state title about a decade or so ago. Big news in my hometown. I don't think it's a surprise, because we kind of see the reset coming. But Angie Hinton is stepping away after 7 years at Lanesville. I think she lost 24 games in 7 years, John.
Yeah.
Pretty successful run for the last 2 seasons 1A state champs, but they'll kind of reset back home. So, yes, it seemingly is happening in larger volume and at a quicker pace. No doubt.
So are we seeing coaches just kind of look at their situation and now shortening what they believe a successful run might be for themselves? I think that we seem like that we're well past. I'll give you a great example. Like that Tom Bradley at Orleans, 26 years, you win that title in your 26th year. It's going to seem like to me that's going to be few and far between that many years consecutively at one place in the future.
I think that's safe to say that, no doubt. And again, to me, I think the leading culprit of is that there is seemingly less time where you are not the boys or girls basketball coach. So much is asked to be in that position in terms of off-season workouts, et cetera, that it is harder to get a break. It's harder to reset in those positions, frankly, in any high school coaching position. To me, that's the lead reason why that's the case.
It's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So we're talking about the transfer portal in college basketball and talk about NIL, but certainly the transfer portal. The effect, is this what we're going to see at the high school level? Is this going to be like a transfer portal here with more relative ease and mobility for players now?
We're about to find out. And again, the difference in the wording or the language is that in the past you could not transfer for athletic reasons. But again, there were a lot of kids that ended up at different high schools. What is the limiting factor here under the new rules that kick in as of the next academic calendar year in and around July 1st would be is that you are free to transfer for an athletic reason, but if you're going to cite that as the reason why you are doing so, you must do so prior to your senior year. So how many kids that we will see that will be talented freshmen or sophomores can end up someplace else? I don't know. Kind of how I have used it in conversation is, well, this team graduates X amount of seniors. Now, what their roster looks like next year, I have no idea because you're not sure, what kid is going to end up moving where. And again, I mentioned this and I'll bring it up again. The majority of transfers that have happened as of late have been allowed to happen. There are, great teams that have kids from different schools. If you looked at players that played in the, state championship games, let's look at the 3A game. A lot of guys that played for Christmas Addicts played for somebody else at some point in time during their high school days. Ethan Roseman, that was the starting point guard for South Bend St. Joseph, he used to be at Chittard for the first couple of years of his career. So it's not like kids weren't transferring. Now you can simply cite the reason being for athletic purposes. But again, you're not allowed to do that, going into your senior year. So I don't have an intelligent answer. I'm going to learn a lot more when I start doing high school football in August is what I think that's going to look like.
So your opinion is this is beneficial to whom, this is detrimental to whom? Just at first glance.
I'm worried about it being detrimental to the smaller schools where you have one definitive star player. And people get in that kid's ear and say, hey, if you really want to play at a larger level at the next level, where in theory they are going to be offering you money to play a college sport, that you leave your hometown program and you go play for somebody bigger. So my immediate first thought would be this is beneficial to the larger schools and detrimental to the smaller schools.
Yeah, it seems like that's oftentimes the case. You know what I mean? So and I guess we're two dudes, and we probably are angling from smaller schools. But I just kind of wonder how that is going to affect the landscape. How comparable is it to the transfer portal, or might it be when it's said and done?
I think this might be what the transfer portal was originally designed to be, which was a one-time transfer, and now it's like every stinking year. And obviously there is not money attached to it, which differentiates it tremendously. So this may be what the NCAA had in mind a couple of years ago, and they said, all right, you get a one-time transfer, no penalty, you don't have to be a grad student, you don't have to sit out for a year, but if you transfer a second time, then you've got to sit. Well, then that got taken to court, and by the middle of last season, that rule was done away with too. And now, and I'll cite this examples because I have broadcast one of these kids' games, kind of the news of the kid that went from Green Bay to Oklahoma State. I always get confused with the Roy that played at Washington and in the NBA with the Portland Trailblazers, but from a first name standpoint. But that kid's about to play for his sixth school in 6 years. And I keep going. I respect your ability to go someplace else. I'm not sure playing in 6 places in 6 years is kind of what we had in mind when this was all put together. I don't think high school will be like that. Let's put it that way.
So Greg Rakestraw, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. And speaking of the transfer portal, give me a couple of thoughts on what has been lost and what has been gained here locally, whether we're talking about Purdue, IU, or Butler, those 3 institutions.
Sure. And again, I'll stick with largely what I know. From an IU standpoint, obviously it's a work in progress, but I'm not freaking out about, they're having a roster that has pretty thin numbers right now. Again, just knowing the budget that IU has to work with, they're going to be okay. From a Butler standpoint, I have seen Jalen Jackson play in high school and college. Saw him play the last years at Purdue Fort Wayne. Physically, I think he can help a Butler, and something that was a weakness of his in high school was his outside shot. It's become much more of a strength in his days in college basketball. I think he will be a guy who will help the Butler program. So that's maybe an under the radar signing locally that should get your attention. And again, the one that I am surprised about is seeing Miles Colvin leave Purdue. And again, it's knowing the family ties of dad, of older sister, and him. I understand maybe he's going to get more playing time. I understand maybe he's going to get more money.
Yeah.
It was still very surprising to see somebody that has that many connections to that school up and leave for the greener pastures.
And that goes to show you that it can happen to anybody, anywhere, and any time. And that's what you have to deduce out of that entire situation. It was either monetary or it was more minutes and more potential production at Wake over Purdue. That's what it came down to.
This is not this particular case, but a friend of mine who is in the Division I coaching business, in talking about trying to keep some of his players, he goes, I'm going to try to stress loyalty. And I almost wanted to pat him on the back and say, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't mean squat anymore. It's going to be, again, 1, cash, 2, opportunity, and more likely the overlapping circles of those 2.
No doubt about that. Hey, I do have a quick question in closing. Do you still have to move into the district to transfer high school-wise? Will you have to do that? Do you have to move
it is open enrollment. No, and I mean, I'll cite my own example. My daughter, and trust me, she's not an athlete. My daughter's going to North Central next year. We don't live in Washington Township. It is open enrollment, so no, you do not have to live in the district to play for that team.
Always a pleasure, my good man. Great call. You're going to be doing it again on Saturday night? Give me a ring.
I am completely off on Saturday, so I think I can carve out time on a Saturday night to give you 3 minutes of my time.
My man, I appreciate you.
See you, buddy.
That's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. The Indy Ignite back at it Saturday, the 12th. Grand Rapids. And so the sister of a guy that I play basketball with every Sunday morning, Dusty Baird's the guy, his sister's Katie Baird, who played collegiately at Stanford, is now a part of the Indy Ignite, James, and she joins us coming up on tomorrow's show. So we're going to talk junk about her brother, because I'm not going to talk junk, because unlike James Boyd and Mike Landis, he shows up and doesn't bail in the last 30 minutes, James. Unlike those two. But, yeah, should be fun. Indy Ignite back at it again, and I got a lot more info for you regarding that, too, because they do want to pack the place. And we'll talk that up coming up on tomorrow's show. Quick break, we'll come back. Do not go anywhere. Blink 182 tickets, Dane 5, top of the hour. Denary Talks Wiz and Pacers coming up after 5. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
James over there. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. Dane 5, top of the hour. B-Dub says, I watched the Gators all year. They played their worst ball last night. You just cannot leave the game on the table against a hungry team. Go Gators. Game was left on the table for sure. Michael Malone fired. Calvin Booth, the general manager of the Nuggets, fired. Craziness right there. At least I think so. Showalter says this, they do like to play with the food sometimes. As you like to mention, I'm available to you and JMV to need my expert opinion on the Nuggets or the Pacers in the playoffs. I like the Pacers versus the Bucks and the Cavs. So, listen, we've been through it all this season. Like last year, it just felt really good with the Pacers. It's like the first time in a while when I didn't have to hear the nerdery of entertaining loss because it was driving me insane. And last year was just a feel good. I better not. I was going to put it in first time terms, James. Do you think that would go over well or lead balloonish?
Maybe lead balloonish.
Thank you. Sometimes I need a willingly conscious James Adams across the ring right there. Thank you very much. But no, last year was, feeling good for the first time. That better? This year, it's more like expectations. This year, you set a course with a group that you trust, and the only change that you made basically was, James Wiseman coming in. He played all but, 2 quarters, and that was it. So it's the same group. But the expectations are there. And I guess what I'm asking, are we kind of dozing off on this team and their potential to push this back to an Eastern Conference championship representation again? And are we doing so because I think as Showalter just mentioned, sometimes they do play with their food a little bit, which is kind of weird for me to say, but you may see that later on tonight. 18.5-point favorite against the Wizards at home. I mean, you still have to win a couple to close out the 4 seed in the East to get that home court in the first round. But this Pacer team, they have played with their food, and not everything has been great. There were points during the season where we wondered where this thing was going, where we questioned how they gathered this talent, where you, once again, started to loathe the term run it back. Not so much now, but are we dozing off on this team and their potential? Because it seems like that everybody else that covers the NBA, they've targeted the Pacers for a deep run possibility. It seems like those that are a little bit more apprehensive about suggesting that are those that watch him all the time and yap and write and are on TV around here. It just is the way that it seems to me. Am I right about that? You on the other side, Denary, the voice of the Pacers, coming up after 5. Blink 182 tickets we shall give away a little bit later on. But we'll put a bow on this college basketball season. We'll hit up the transfer portal and get the thoughts of friend of the show, the former coach, the former player. Dane Fife is scheduled to join us coming up on the other side. Stream the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Theme music. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Dane 5 in just a second. He's going to sit tight for us. Denary coming up after 5. Thank you for joining us. Back with Hour 2. And Ben from Cluster Truck at clustertruck.com is in studio right now. Ben, is that mic in front of your face right there?
I believe it is. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine. Ben, what is your job at Cluster Truck? Because you do not look like Evan.
I am not Evan, no.
You're not Evan.
No, Evan is our marketing guy. He's on vacation this week in an undisclosed location.
What is your title, Ben?
I'm the controller.
What do you control?
I control the finances.
Nice.
So I'm in charge of...
That's a good job right there.
Is, yeah. Paying
Control
the bills,
the finances.
doing financial reporting, things like that. I'm also in charge of our community program, our Dine to Donate program, where just so far this year we've donated over $8,000.
Nice, buddy.
To worthy nonprofits. Worked with about 25 organizations so far. And I believe our May schedule is pretty much all booked out. So if anyone listening is interested in doing a fundraiser with Cluster Truck, email community at clustertruck.com or reach out to our customer service team, and they'll point you in the right direction.
All right, so you got clustertruck.com. Use the promo code FAN, $5 off a $25 order or more right there. Ben is with us. Do you also make the salmon? Because I love it.
I do not make the salmon,
I just
no.
want to make sure.
No, our excellent chefs who train a lot to make sure that salmon is perfect.
So you got the salmon for me, as always. What else did you bring? What do you got for James in there?
I believe we got James the Chipotle cheesesteak, his favorite.
Nice.
I know
Cool.
Evan's been getting that for him for the last few months. But we also have a pimento cheese sandwich. That's our special for this.
The Masters?
The Masters,
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say it, but I'm sure you can.
Oh, you can? I don't know. Hell, I don't know. I'll probably get in trouble for it. That wouldn't be the first time.
No, but
So,
it's inspired by that pimento cheese sandwich down there in
Listen,
Augusta.
incredible golf championship coming up this weekend, right?
Really exciting.
Pimento cheese.
Yep, available until, let me pull up my phone just double check, April 13th.
April 13th.
Yep, so all this week. Check it out.
Ben, thank you very much. Clustertruck.com. Fan, promo code, $5 off a $25 order or more. Man, we appreciate you guys. We love having you in.
Absolutely. Thank you. Truck on.
That is Ben. Well, there you go, man. Ben's in studio right there on the Eddie Moore Automotive Group hotline. He's wishing he was here because my man digs some salmon and love a pimento and cheese sandwich in honor of that golf outing coming up this weekend in Georgia. And Chipotle cheesesteak is high on the list, too, for Dane Fife, who is with us now. Hello, Dane.
Hey, Johnny, I love Cluster Truck.
Yes, you do.
If they need some insurance, they need to holler at me.
Well, I just told Ben he's the controller. He's in charge of the finances.
Oh,
so, yes, I just told him. Yeah.
I thought you were connecting us. Oh, man, it's a match made in heaven.
It is. A Cluster Truck. Have you had it before?
Great food. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man.
Pizza, burgers, wings. It's phenomenal.
You are a
it's great concept.
stud. Hey, how did spring break go?
Not good. I fell asleep in the sun, sober, thinking about your back deck, and I was sober. And
As long as that's not a euphemism for my ass, that's good. So you're talking about my actual back deck? Okay, thank you.
Your back deck. No, but it's sober. 3rd-degree burns, though, on my nose and face, and it's just not good for me.
Yeah.
I still don't have a tan, but still peeling, though, 2 weeks later. It's a great look for me.
It seems like a Fife and Sunshine probably doesn't mix very well.
Just a terrible mix.
Yeah.
Just a terrible mix. My transparent skin just does not do well in the sun. You know, and as we talked, people have told me they like when I take my shirt off, but especially if I've shaved the matted hair.
Sure.
But I've heard that from a few people, but it's just not good for me in the long run.
Yeah. Then it's problematic all the way around, but that's okay. As long as you had a good time with family and friends, that's what matters. So you were sober? Did you stay sober the entire trip? Surely not.
No, I dug into some a new drink. A friend of mine suggested a ginger ale and tequila, not the cheap tequila, but the good tequila, and it served me well the whole time. I got in trouble a few times for getting mouthy, but
no, that's never happened before.
Just by the misses, yeah, just by the misses. But I hung in there. I didn't get in too much trouble. I stayed out of trouble for the most part, but I had some fun. Absolutely.
Well, let's get you set up because we are approaching summertime, and you're going to go. You don't live too far, I'm assuming, from Lake Monroe. You're going to go out to Fairfax Beach and lay on the beach once the water recedes, probably around August or so down there. So you get to go out to the beach. So I'll get you some Luna Azul tequila. And you can do the ginger ale and Luna Azul tequila, or this has been a cocktail fixin' of mine for nearly a decade plus now. Larceny bourbon and ginger ale and a Yeti thermos. Shake it up. Summertime drink extraordinaire right there, especially with the 126 proof Larceny single barrel. If you want something that's going to get you to your location quicker than usual, that would be it.
I don't know, Johnny. I don't have the same bloodlines as you. I'm from the burbs, man. I'm from Greene County. I'm from the burbs of Michigan.
You got to be ready for that. It is
Detroit. No way I can handle that. I might give it a try. As long as you're there to supervise.
Yes, I will be there to supervise and make sure that everything goes according to plan. But no, we'll set that up with Brent Halverson, and we'll see what happens over the summertime. But you'll thoroughly enjoy it, I promise.
We got to get the guy from Sullivan's, the hardware, and let's get him down there too.
Pat Sullivan. Yep, we'll get Pat and Denny the entire Saturday morning show with Sullivan Hardware and Go. We'll get everybody too. We'll do a little hashtag Ask Pat. We'll go to Brown County. Brent Halverson has a destination location called Terrapin Station around Nashville and Brown County. That's got a nice lake, very convenient for us all. We'll do something like that. Have a party.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Sounds great.
What did you think about last night, too? I think you and I were kind of lockstep on our thoughts regarding Houston. And then it's amazing what 2 or 3 end-of-game possessions can do to keep you from winning a championship, and that's ultimately what occurred. What do you think about both sides of the basketball last night and Florida ultimately winning it all?
Absolutely incredible game. Was that intense or what?
Yeah, it was.
Normally I get lost in my phone watching games. You know, I get on a bender, read a tweet or something, and then just do some search. I was locked in the whole game, and it's been a long time. I think unfortunately for Houston, they had it in the bag and really just choked it away. I just read something. Jeff Borzello, ESPN, put it out. It said that right around 36 minutes, the first 36 minutes, Houston had 4 turnovers. And in the last 3.5 minutes, they had 5 turnovers. So that is a telling stat. And I think in the last minute, they had 3 turnovers. And so you got 4 of the first 36 minutes, then you commit 5 more in the last 3.5. What a stat. And I think that just shows that, Houston, I think, really just stumbled. They tripped and fell over themselves, and unfortunately for them, but fortunate for Florida. I thought that Florida, Johnny, was as good a defensive team, every bit as good a defensive team as Houston was. What did you think?
I did, but it's funny what they were trying to do, Dane. Throughout the game, you could tell they were trying to match. I thought Tennessee did the same thing, and Tennessee got buried because of it. Tried to match the how aggressive Houston is. I mean, Houston goes out there, they slap and they hack, and they make sure that the officials, they know they can't call it all, and that's the game that they play. Defensively, I don't even know if they talk, Dane, because their defensive help side is so good. Everybody always knows, like chess pieces, where they need to be, where they have to be. And it seemed like all of a sudden when Florida matched in the second half late once again what Houston was doing, it worked for them, whereas, basically 3/4 of the game, it didn't.
Well, I think that's a good point. You mentioned that, the game – it seemed like the first half Florida was trying to adjust not only to the officiating, but obviously to Houston's physicality. Those are 2 major adjustments because it does. The way Houston plays, it changes the way the game's is officiated. The flip side of that is it looked like the officials just said, screw it. Let's just let them play and not call anything. And so I think that played in Florida's favor a little bit because, we can hack too. Let's do it. I also think Florida doesn't get enough credit. You mentioned help side. They don't get enough credit for how big they are.
Agreed.
You know, you've got your smallest guy is Martin, their guard, who's listed as probably 6'3" or 4, more like 6'2", but he looks like you do now, just rocked up, long arms. I think that's one thing that, yes, Houston's incredibly athletic, but Florida's just massive with Condon and Houck and the other big kid, I can't pronounce his name, and then Richard, who's 6'5" with arms, you know, probably a 7-foot wingspan. I thought that was a big difference in the game as it wore on, as well as just Florida's side. It just didn't seem like Houston could get a good look at all, especially in that last 10 minutes.
It's Dave Fife who joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How great of an example is it with both of these teams putting together a group that best fits what you want to do? And I don't think that there's more of an example in college basketball than Kelvin Sampson, because he doesn't care where he finds you, where you come from, you know, how you end up getting to Houston, as long as you fit his puzzle. And I thought those were two teams that may have been the greatest example this season of how you have to put together a college basketball team on a year-to-year basis now.
Yeah, I love what Kelvin Sampson said about he takes tough kids and makes them tougher. And they take on that mantra, whether you like it or not. The physicality, the two teams, I've never seen two teams play that hard for that long a time as I did last night. I was just so impressed by the level of intensity that those players maintained. The plays at the rim, whether it was a rebound or a layup or a contested shot, just they were given everything they have, and it's as good a basketball game. I know that they both shot 25% from the 3-point line. They probably didn't shoot very well from the field overall, but it was as highly a competitive basketball game as I'd seen. And I think just the basketball minds, guys that love watching players and teams compete, that was euphoric last night watching those two teams play.
You would know this better than anybody because you brought physicality in your day to the floor. How difficult would it be to match and then surpass the physicality of a team like Houston and then, you know, still execute yourself?
Yeah, just I'd say having to deal with their crap is the first part. And I think that's the first thing you learn. It's kind of a litmus test of whether you got high-level players. You could see a couple of the Florida players that couldn't handle that smoke that Houston brought, and they didn't last very long in the game. I thought the greatest story was Condon, Florida's 7-footer, who struggled early. He must have had like 4 or 5 turnovers in the first half himself. How he adjusted and figured it out in the second half. It just quit making mistakes. You know, go in, be tall, play hard, and quit making mistakes. And so I thought he really changed the level of his play in the second half and finally figured it out. But just watching how teams were handling Houston's pressure and intensity, and you know, I think for a lot of teams, the game was over before it started, knowing what they were up against with regard to Houston. So I give Coach Golden and his staff tremendous credit, especially in that second half when they got down when Florida was down double digits. But I guess it shouldn't surprise us. Florida's been doing that the whole tournament, coming back from large deficits to win the game.
I'd like to know, when was the last time you saw a bench technical and a player technical in the same game and that team still won? Like that. I mean, a national championship game, I'm assuming that's never happened before, but just in games in general, that's rare, it would seem.
I know. Watching Todd Gold, the head coach of Florida's reactions were a show in itself. Just some of the calls that he disagreed with, and then him trying to figure out what went on when those two technicals were assessed was just comedy in itself.
Well, and you could see his players, and as a coach, you would know this as well. It's cool when your players can take care of the player aspect. He was taking care of, okay, what the hell came off the bench here? Why did that happen? but you saw Elijah Martin and others kind of taking care of the player technical situation on the floor in that moment, and that would seem to be invaluable for any team.
Watching the Florida players handle those situations when one of their teammates was stepping out of line or maybe lost his way was really impressive. I mean, that's Tom Izzo's. That's his number one product. I mean, that's what he's trying to do with his players, is to get them to govern themselves. And when you do that, it makes coaching so much easier. So when I saw the Florida players deal with the player that I can't even pronounce his name, deal with the player that got the technical, you said it. It was just really impressive. That's when you know you got a squad, Johnny, when you got the players governing themselves, man. It just makes the coaching so much easier.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that is necessary. Dane Fife's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll go general, and then we'll go a little bit more specific with some things here locally. The transfer portal and NIL, what are your thoughts on this season now that we're neck deep into it? Then we'll get into some of the local teams and trying to put together their squads again. But what do you think so far about what you've seen regarding the nationwide transfer portal?
Well, I think there's positives. I've always felt like players need to be paid for something like going out signing autographs, or, appearing at a car dealership, making appearances. I've always felt like that's okay. I do feel like things are a bit extreme right now, and I also think that there has to be some guardrails getting put in place. And what's interesting is we keep hearing about the NCAA being the problem with the transfer portal. Everybody wants to throw the NCAA under the bus. I got news for everybody. It's not the NCAA. It's the school presidents. It's the school academic liaisons for the student athletes. It's the athletic directors. Those are the people that make the rules. It's not the NCAA. And it's just so funny to me that everybody wants to crucify the NCAA. They're not the problem with the portal. It's the presidents. It's the school president. It's the schools. The schools make the rules. The NCAA just generally enforces them and gets thrown under the bus. So otherwise, look, the portal's brutal right now. Loyalty's dead, and that's okay. That's okay, but you just got to be ready for a product that looks more like the NBA. And I know there'll be some people that disagree with me, but the NBA is struggling right now. They're struggling for an identity, and my concern is that college football and in basketball especially end up without an identity too, where people don't, struggle to go watch them. And because it's so money driven, the regular person can't even afford tickets anyway.
And I will look at it like this, like with the NBA and the NFL, we go through things that you would expect. And collegiately, it wasn't that. And there was always that separation. And I think most of us kind of enjoyed the separation. And now that the lines are so incredibly blurred, if not really any longer even, and there's really no distinction between the two, that is cause for some to kind of bail on the product. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, I'd agree with that. I also think the argument for this is the best Final Four in a long time has some merit. I think mainly because of familiarity with programs. I mean, you had top elite tier programs that everybody's familiar with. I mean, it made for a great site, a great viewing. But I also think that fan loyalty is like player loyalty, and there's a big difference between someone like Jace Richardson from Michigan State just left to go to the NBA. There's a big difference between going to the NBA and maybe switching teams within your conference. The game can still be exciting, but I also think loyalty and fan loyalty is a big deal as well.
You said Dane Fife on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I don't think we've talked. Have we talked since IU hired Darren DeVries as their next head coach?
I don't think so, Johnny.
I don't think so either.
I really don't.
What do you think about that hiring?
Well, I don't know much about him. I know I watched his Drake teams compete a little bit. I loved it. And then I watched how his West Virginia team, despite losing some key players, continued to play hard, do the right things, and win basketball games and give themselves a shot at the NCAA tournament. I met him at one of our daughters. His daughter's similar in age to mine, and I met him at a AAU tournament a couple weeks ago. Seemed great. I think ultimately, and unfortunately, that just he's got to put a team together. And if he can get the right guys, they can do some damage. I mean, it sounds like they've got everything they need in terms of finances to be able to afford the right players. But it still comes down to you still have to be able to convince these guys, despite all the money in the world, to come here and play, come to Indiana and play. And then on top of that, they got to fall in line and do the right things that Coach DeVries and his staff expects them to do. But I'm excited about Coach DeVries. Excited to have he and his family in the city of Bloomington and represent the Hoosiers.
So is he Bloomington South guy now?
Yeah, he sure is.
Oh boy,
we did our part. We did our part in recruiting his daughter.
What? There was a point in time. It used to be Bloomington South, and then it transitioned to Bloomington North, and that was obviously Jared Jeffries and Sean May.
Yeah.
And the late, I think the Tom McKinney era toward the end of his head coaching career there, and now it's back to Bloomington South. Why? Because of you?
I think, because of me. There you go. I think that's the key to Bloomington South. I think for me, Bloomington South is just it's a nicer building. Everything's newer, seemingly. It's just a nicer building. It's
well, the atrium's new. The building's not new, is it? The atrium is.
They got new swimming pool. Their gym's more modern looking. I don't know, and it's closer to my house. So there's your reason for me liking Bloomington South.
Oh man, do you live out there by the Grossmans? They still live out there somewhere by you?
Yeah, we live fairly close to them. I'd say about a mile.
I'm going to send everybody to your house. I think I know exactly where you live. That used to be the back way. Is that like Smith Road to get you on the other side of the mall on 46 and 446 in there? Yeah.
It's fairly close to there. We're by Sherwood Oaks. But no, it's not too far from the back way.
That's the way you drive to get to the office lounge 6 nights a week.
No. So there's the lounge.
The office lounge over there. I'm assuming the office lounge is still there. I'm not quite sure, but
the lounge, night moves, yep, all
those great places. Were you at IU when night moves had a lunch buffet?
I was free pizza after midnight. I'd heard that rumor.
They had a noon lunch buffet.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, it's spectacular.
That's gross.
Yeah, spectacular. Hey, I should ask you before we go too about Purdue. Miles Colvin goes to the transfer portal. He's now at Wake. Cam Heide goes to the transfer portal. He's now at Texas. But a lot of what they have remains the same. They bring in a different guy as well. What do you think about the makings of Matt's team coming up next year?
I love the way the Boilers are stacking up, man. They've got their big three still with Fletch Braden and Trey Kaufman-Wren, and they just got the big hoss from South Dakota State, Clough. I think Matt Painter's doing exactly what he needs to do to put a great team together. And I give someone like Colvin and his family a ton of credit, and I don't even disagree with what they're saying. Here's why we're transferring. No issues. It's just we feel like Colvin, and we feel like he's would be in a better situation relative to being with a coach that has this type of philosophy offensively. I really appreciated them coming out and giving praise where praise was due, and then helping people understand that the transfer was based solely on basketball, and I think that there was really good truth to that. And I think Colvin's situation is one of those situations where, yep, I can see that. That's a good reason to transfer. And then Heidi, I'm not sure what those discussions were like behind the scenes, but I think Heidi probably just wants a chance to play more. He's always going to be probably the 6th, 7th, 8th guy at Purdue, and he's a 4. Unfortunately, he's mainly a 4, and that's what he's going to be. And so try and go earn a spot in the starting lineup with a team like Texas that maybe Sean Miller will play him a little differently.
Yeah, it is interesting to say the least. And probably both had conversations with Matt about where they are right now and where they are at this moment in the fold of next year. And, maybe, especially with Colvin, you kind of wonder, all right, expanded role, well, I can't guarantee you that right now. Okay, well, I've seen what's going on in the first 2 years. That means I need to go ahead and bail and go someplace else to where, this in Winston-Salem, they're probably going to turn over a lot of things to him because of his ability alone and then find out exactly how that translates later, I would assume, right?
Well, yeah, I would agree. And I think, in Colvin's case, going to Wake Forest, I think he's gonna really discover what a great coach Matt Painter and what great coaches Matt Painter and his staff are. A little different style at Wake, and I also think he'll be able to appreciate having teammates for more than just 1 year. Buyer's remorse? I don't think so. I think Colvin made a pretty good decision relative to what he wanted from his basketball experience. And I don't think you find that, and I don't know this, but I don't think you'll find that the Purdue staff disagree. I mean, time is, you just have but very little time. It seems like you have even less time now with money being at the forefront. To have success both on the court and financially, you got to find a place that will allow you to maximize both.
All right. If we do a tavern tour stop one of these days at the Office Lounge, you'll be there, right?
Absolutely. It's been probably 25 years, but I could make a trip there, a special trip there for Johnny and company.
I was down there yesterday. I played noon hoop at the Hyper yesterday.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
How'd you do?
Glorious. I love it. I love the Hyper. Love it. Even though I slide all over the floor like it's an ice rink. I don't think anybody's rubbed a broom on that thing in 30 years. So, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I love it.
Stood the test of time.
All right. Let's stay in touch, man. We'll do some fun things this summer if you want to. All right?
You bet, Johnny. Thanks a lot.
You got it. Dane Fife right there on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I don't know. Gritty would agree with me on this. The Office Lounge, I think, is a spectacular place to have a tavern tour stop. Any place in Bloomington? Anybody down in Bloomington? What do you, tavern tour stop? What do you guys think? Yeah, I know. Crazy Horse is one we've discussed before. You think? Quick one, I'll come back. Me and you, rest of the way. Actually, Denari is going to jump in here in the 5 o'clock hour. Blink 182 tickets we'll give away as well. Hey, don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
He looks like Rascal Flatts guy.
Got a cool soul patch.
He does, and a buttery smooth voice.
Oh, yeah.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Shout out to Joel A. Erickson and Braden Smith for opening up, along with his wife, Courtney, I believe, in an article that was published in the Star and written just fantastically by Joel. Talking about the type of obsessive-compulsive disorder that prompted him to spend 48 days in a treatment facility and ultimately turn to a psychedelic drug that he believes helped save him. I mean, some of the words that were mentioned in that article: tormented, suicidal, and just to bring it all out there. And again, it does speak for itself. I wish I had more of a vocabulary to be able to explain the impact that has on everybody. You know, maybe not at that level, maybe not exactly the same, but I mean, people deal with crap. You can make these connections everywhere. Like I've seen the comments to this article, and so many people out there deal with a certain level of situation like this. And, you know, everybody kind of wondered. But it was fantastically written by Joel A. Erickson. It is in the Star, and it is about offensive tackle Braden Smith. If you remember, too, he missed the final 5 games a year ago because of the personal matter in which he goes into full detail, along with his wife, in that Star article. It is a must read. Truly is. Must read. Gritty writes this: the office lounge is still open and it is spectacular. I would imagine so. Does not surprise me one bit. I've always loved that. I actually lived, when I was in Bloomington, I lived in Night Ridge Manor for, I think, 2 or 3 years. And right out there by it, 446 and 46 back in the day. Bill writes this: bad shooting, multiple turnovers, and though not one-sided officiating changed how they were calling the game. They did go to not a lot in the first to a bunch, an overload of whistles in the second. By the way, too, I believe this to be true. I haven't completely 100% checked on this, James, but I think Lindsey Monroe finished second in both. I believe our friend Litzy took home Diamond Madness with Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. That is the $5,000 diamond. Litzy took that home, and I believe that Lindsay was second place in both.
She was definitely second place in our personal show bracket. I'm not sure. I don't have the diamond one in front of me.
I believe that she was second place to Litzy in Diamond Madness. I'm going to say this. Shout out to Lindsey Monroe for an incredible effort. And it stinks that you finished second in both because it is winner take all. But we got to set her up in something. All right, the Moyer Fine Jewelers. How about this? I was up inside the top 15, and my dumbass finished 109. How about that in the Moyer one? I was in the top 15 going into the Final Four.
What did you finish in hours?
In hours, 48th.
Oh, wow.
I was in the top 10 in hours. You talk about, I don't know who handled things worse. Me in the Final Four with the bracket challenges, or the Houston Cougars last night, late night game. Who handled it worse? Good Lord. How do you go from top 10 to 48th? I deserve zero love for the late bracket effort right there. Pure insanity is what it is. Too bad. Yeah, I mentioned Lindsay, too. Lindsay in the Moyer Diamond Madness. This has her finishing second.
There's got to be some sort of consolation prize for getting second both times.
This says Litzy had 1770 and she had 1760. I finished with 1280. 109. That's embarrassing, man. And then 48th off the pace. So somebody named something Presto won ours, and Lindsay finished. Nah, I guess he won it by a wide margin. 1840, and Lindsay had 1760. But second place in both for Lindsay Monroe of Channel 13. So job well done. Disappointing, I'm sure, but a job well done. Hey, by the way, too, Saturday, April the 12th, Indy Ignite, Grand Rapids Rise. It is Firestorm Appreciation Night presented by Best One Tire. Encourage fans to come early and participate in the pregame party at the Fishers Event Center. If you've not been to one of these matches yet, what are you doing? Katie Baird's going to join us tomorrow. She is kind of new, I guess not brand new, but kind of new to the squad. Former Perry Meridian standout, played collegiately at Stanford, and maybe more so than anything else, her brother Dusty plays Sunday morning pickup with us. Katie's going to join us coming up tomorrow. But it's going to be an absolute blast coming up on Saturday the 12th, so be a part of it. The Indy Ignite at the Fishers Event Center. Get your tickets, be a part of the party, and thank me later. And Katie Baird will join us coming up on the show from the Indy Ignite. That is tomorrow. All right, the Wizards, last check, 18.5-point underdogs later on tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against the Pacers. Chris Denari will discuss that. How about this? So the Pacers go Sunday, and they hand the Denver Nuggets yet another loss. And then today we find out that the Nuggets can their head coach Michael Malone and the general manager Calvin Booth. So when you think about it, well, the Nuggets, they lose how many in a row right now? They've lost 4 straight, 3 of their last 7. They're 47-32 are the Nuggets. They are right now, this is a logjam between 4 and 8. Denver, the Clippers, the Warriors, Minnesota, and Memphis all right in that general vicinity. Actually, the Nuggets are a half game in front of those other aforementioned teams. And you're 47-32, and you blow out your head coach and your general manager in the final week of the regular season. How incredible is that? I guess I'm to assume, or we're to assume, that the Pacers were singing the general manager, the head coach, a lullaby on Sunday night. And I cannot wait to hear more of the story. That should be good. Adam references this, as I mentioned, a lot nationally are going with the Pacers to reemerge in the Eastern Conference Finals again, whereas around here, I think we're a little bit apprehensive to make that call. And probably because, we stare at the product. We're like possession by possession with this product. Nationally, everybody kind of zooms in and, hey, there it is, and zooms back out again. But Adam writes this: does anyone in the East scare you? I think the Pacers are scary. I think the Pacers are a part of the equation that is going to be trouble for other teams. I think you look at those top 4, from Cleveland to Boston to the Knicks to the Pacers, and I will add in Milwaukee just because Giannis is playing at an elite level right now. But you do kind of throw them all into pot a little bit right there, don't you? Good point. Quick break. We'll come back. Kristen Airy is going to join us at the top of the hour. Blink 182 tickets coming your way in just a little bit, too. Clustertruck.com. No Evan today, but Ben was in studio. Again, clustertruck.com. If you want to eat and save money, use the promo code FAN. That's $5 off an order of $25 or more. Clustertruck.com. Get on their website. Find out exactly where they deliver and do they deliver in your area, and then thank us later because the food is outstanding. Clustertruck.com, promo code FAN. Denary, top of the hour. Blink 182 tickets after 5. Me and you the rest of the way. Sit tight. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Steelers will, James. Jerry Rafferty, the late great, said, I got to get the hell out of this band right here. He did. And created Baker Street and right down the line after getting out of the band. This song was made even more famous. The 73 big hit, no doubt about that, made even more famous, James, from what film? Can you name it?
Can I ever name the films when you ask me?
Well, this may be, even though it's not your age group, this may be a film that you've seen before.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
It is a Quentin Tarantino film. Does that help?
I mean, sort of. It's not like Pulp Fiction or something, is
Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, this is Reservoir Dogs.
Do you remember Michael Madsen playing this and dancing around with the razor?
Oh, okay.
The torturous scene while this song is playing in the background.
Honestly, Reservoir Dogs is probably one of the ones I'm not as familiar with from Tarantino.
Reservoir Dogs, 1992. Yeah, that was one hell of a role by Michael Madsen, who had one hell of a smoke show sister named Virginia Madsen. True story. But yeah. Actually, there were a couple of songs. Tarantino's films have made more than a handful of songs more interesting again, or kind of re-image them. And the other one, if you remember, was Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang in Pulp Fiction at the very beginning when they're changing stations. Good stuff right there. Steelers wheel as the re-entry. I was going to mention this because you get the Wizards and the Pacers later on tonight. That's a 7 o'clock tip. 6:30 coverage begins here on The Fan. Does that mean I have to go extra?
We will be going a little bit extra.
That stinks.
Only 8.5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, because the Colts have a daily update today.
That's right.
Shout out to Matt and Gorman and Casey Valier for the Colts daily update. All right, here's how the regular season concludes. Wizards tonight, and again, the magic number is 2 to clinch home court first round, the 4 seed in the East. The Wizards tonight, tip time 7. The Cavaliers here on Thursday. That tip time 7. And then Orlando in town on Friday, also with a tip time of 7 o'clock. They end the regular season on Sunday on the road at Cleveland, and hopefully by then they have everything taken care of. Hopefully by then Cleveland has everything taken care of, and we'll see how the rosters look upon that arrival in Cleveland on Sunday. Hopefully so. Get a little bit of rest, get ready. Because a lot of people out there nationally are suggesting this Pacer team is going to be a tough out, or one of the tougher outs in the NBA postseason. I say this, we haven't talked about that very much because we are too damn close to it. We have gone through the bad times. Yeah, the rest of the country haven't paid attention. When the Pacers, what did they lose, 5 straight or something like that once upon a time of the season? When they were going through tough areas, the rest of the nation, they were paying attention to something else. But nationally right now, they suggest the Pacers being one of the tougher outs and a team that could reenact what they did a year ago, that's getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Wizards Pacers later on tonight. Kristen Airy is going to join us, the voice of the Pacers. That is on the other side. Blink 182, one of the more popular bands out there that make, I guess, somewhat of an annual, I don't know if it's annual, but close to it, appearance in the summertime, or at least during the Ruoff concert season. I've got tickets for you a little bit later on. You know, somebody had mentioned this, James, for whatever reason, and I can't remember who this is. I think it's Courtney, was going to see MC Light at the Vogue on Friday and then found out upon arrival that the show had been canceled. So keep that in mind. I got guys on my desk that want Dave Matthews Band tickets back there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get something really nice for Courtney. Let's do that. Really nice for Courtney, because the effort Friday was there. And then I didn't even know that it was canceled, but she had mentioned that the show did not go on. So something special for the effort for Courtney. Let's think about that sometime.
Let's
Not
do
necessarily now, but maybe sometime. Maybe later on this week, something like that. All right, Blink 182 tickets coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Dane Fife, Greg Rakestraw, podcast 1075thefan.com. Frank Caliendo in studio yesterday. Helium Comedy Club. That is on Thursday night here downtown. You can check out Frank and make sure you tell him that you heard his 30-minute long segment on this show yesterday. Be a part of it. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, nowhere this week. I know Gritty was asking me a little bit earlier next week. I believe there are going to be a couple of opportunities to join me next week. One of which with the Indy 11 at Carroll Stadium. Is it supposed to be a lot warmer next week? This time a year ago. Was it this date a year ago? Can anybody recollect with me? By the way, Cool and the Gang, well done right there. Crank this up. I love this song. This is a great song. Was the eclipse on this day a year ago?
That seems right.
Remember, we were outside at the Ale Emporium and taking in the eclipse. It was awesome, and it was warm. We were outside. Did we crack 40 today? That's a bunch of crap. Was it a year ago this time?
I think it was a year ago. And on your question of what's next week going to look like, I don't have the full forecast, but it does say Monday is 74 degrees.
74 Monday, baby. I think maybe it's Wednesday and Friday or Wednesday and Thursday, something like that. I think Carroll Stadium's on Wednesday.
And it was on this day last year.
The eclipse. Anybody remember that? All the pomp and circumstance leading up to it. I had a playlist with Eclipse songs and Black Hole Sun. We're at the Ale in Castleton. That was a hell of a time right there. That was a year ago, everybody. But if you remember, from that point on, it seemed like the weather was better, everything was cool, and we took the stretch run. And part of that stretch run into the month of May, and toward the end of May, the Carb Day and the 500 was riding along with the blue and gold. And joining us now, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, the voice of the Pacers, Pacers TV, Chris Denary joins us. So I mentioned this. It seems like, Chris, nationally, that the people that follow the NBA are more on board with a deep playoff run, or maybe something that mirrors that Eastern Conference Finals run for the Pacers a year ago. And I think the reason why you get it nationally more than locally is because I think we probably overanalyze every single possession, and we've been through the good now and the bad prior, or maybe that's how we look at it more so than just paying attention to the good, as nationally they probably are right now. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think it does. And you look at somebody like Cleveland, they had a struggle a few weeks ago. Oklahoma City's lost a few in a row. And everybody goes through that, John, the good teams, the really good teams. And I would consider the Pacers a really good team in the NBA. They've got the fourth best record in the East. They've got the fourth best record in the NBA since January 1. So, yeah, they're, fans that watch every game, tune into every possession, and sometimes just look at box scores and don't look at, what's happened during that game and those types of things. So I think this team is in a really good place. They put themselves in position to have home court in the first round. The magic number is 2. Any number of Pacer wins or Bucks losses at equal 2 will give the Pacers home court advantage. And then the other thing is they've assured themselves of having a week off with the regular season finale on Sunday in Cleveland. You won't open a playoff series until the following Saturday or Sunday. So I just look at the whole season in context, and this team has won 47 games. They have a chance to win 50. And that's only happened a handful of times in Pacers history.
No, it is fun. There's no doubt about that. It's Chris Denary on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So more, I thought, awkward and odd and or weird than last week in Memphis is today evidently in Denver. I mean, in part, can you look at the Pacers maybe singing head coach and general manager a final lullaby on Sunday night at Ball Arena? That's crazy.
It is crazy. And let's go back earlier in the year. Mike Brown was fired just a few days after the Pacers won in Sacramento. And then we had a little text chain going today, and the whole Jimmy Butler saga sort of went off the rails when the Pacers beat Miami down there early in the year. So, yeah, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, at least that I can recollect, that 2 coaches have been fired with about 10 games to play. And for Michael Malone, it's 4 games to play. And they're currently the 4th seed in the Western Conference. And they've gone to an interim head coach. So yeah, whatever happened on Sunday night was for ownership, I guess.
Something boiled over.
Straw.
Something boiled over, and man, that makes you think about that being a player or something more than anything else. Like with Memphis, with Jenkins and the general manager, I mean, obviously things weren't working out there. You understood that, even though you think probably it wasn't for the betterment of the team. With this, with both general manager and coach, Chris, this sounds like maybe not on the same page with players anymore. Something like that.
Yeah, and apparently, I mean, just what I had read, Michael Malone and Calvin Booth weren't on the same page together, that those two very rarely talked. And then does that spill over into the locker room and just creates a chaotic situation and a team that all of a sudden has lost 4 straight? They're trying to get things into gear prior to the end of the year. But that is just a bizarre story. I mean, it isn't the same as going to your computer on February 1st at midnight and seeing that Luka Doncic has been traded from Dallas to the Lakers. I mean, that's above and beyond. But again, to have 2 coaches let go in the last 2 weeks, 10 games left in the regular season, that's something that I don't think anybody could have anticipated.
Is Chris Denari with us again. Wizards Pacers later on tonight. That tip is at 7. 6:30 coverage begins for Pacers TV. Also coverage begins right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, as Pat Boylan will bring you that pregame show with Mark and Eddie coming up a little bit later on. I'm curious. You look at Obi Toppin, and we always knew how well he fit with the team. But let's face it, things here down the stretch have been magnified as to why he is so valuable across the board with this group, has it not?
Absolutely. I mean, he shoots the ball so well. He's athletic. He can play multiple positions. We've seen him play the 5 over the last few weeks. And again, I think it's a great tribute to Kevin Pritchard and his staff in the front office and what they've been able to build. I mean, this is by far one of the deepest teams in the NBA. And as many a player will tell you, they believe that's their great superpower, that the second unit gives the starters a lot of confidence. Whether the starters have a lead or have not played well, they have great faith in the second unit getting them back in a game or extending a lead. So Obi is a huge part of that. You've seen a lot of great play, I think, out of Jarris Walker here over the last week or two. And so that's going to be the strength of this team. I mean, as good as Pascal Siakam and Miles and Halliburton are, this team is at its best when it's got multiple players in double figures and multiple players helping on a regular basis. And the other thing I think is big, John, this team is so much better defensively than they were last year. They're currently 14th in the NBA in defensive rating. Last year, they were around 27 or 28. And when they won games, they literally had to outscore the other opponent. That's not the case this year. And I think, Obi and his second unit teammates, they take great pride in that, just like the starters.
Why do you think their defense is much better? Is it because they've got another year collectively under their belt? I have said this before. I just think there's a little bit more want to in their guys. And I think on that end of the floor, I think a lot of that is with Tyrese Halliburton. He is still not a great defender, but he has a lot more want to, especially in terms of getting into the passing lane.
Well, no question about that. He's 15th in the league in steals. In the last number of games, he's had numerous block shots, deflections, those types of things. And after the game in Denver, I mean, that's what he told me. He said, look, the coaching staff has challenged me to be better defensively. And so that's just one person. But I do think collectively having been together, the cohesiveness that this group has, and their belief in the systems defensively that Jim Boylan and Jenny Busick have put together, I just think those are many of the reasons why this team is so much better defensively. Now, you're going to have an outlier gamer here or there. I mean, there are going to be Oklahoma City. They gave up 130 plus. But if you look at the context of the season, 78 games, 14th in efficiency defensively, I think that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, I would agree. If you would have told us, Chris, that, remember a year ago it was different. it was like your offense has to dictate the terms for your defense, meaning you got to be offensively at the highest level all nights to be able to maintain defensively. But there is more of a presence now defensively to where it takes not all the pressure, not nearly all of it, but a little bit of the pressure off what you have to do offensively each and every night. And I think that's helpful across the board.
Yeah, and they're still one of the top shooting teams in the NBA. They're third in field goal percentage at about 49%. They're seventh in three-point percentage at just shy of 38%. So I think you're right. A year ago, they shot better than 50% and led the NBA in that category, and they haven't had to do that this year. They're still at a high percentage, but last year they had to shoot better than 50% in games to have a chance to win. The other thing, they've done a pretty good job, I think, on the glass this year, much better than last year. They're still near the bottom, but they've won 22 games this year when they've been out-rebounded. And the key is if you're going to get out-rebounded, you want that to be modest, right? You want it to be anywhere from 2 to 6 or 2 to 7. Many times last year they were getting out-rebounded by 10 plus, and those games are then hard to win. So I just think there's been a lot of improvement. It was interesting because Chad Buchanan, I think, before the season said, I think we can be a better team, but we may not have a better record just based on the landscape of the Eastern Conference. But here they are with 4 games to go. They've already matched the 47 wins from last year and have a chance to get to 50.
No, there's no doubt about that. It's Chris Denari on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I want to double back to Sunday night in Denver, watching you guys in the call of that game. I'd mentioned this regarding Jokic and trying to deal with him. He had just an incredible triple-double per usual, over 40, and another great night for him. But what you have to do is you're not going to take him out at all. He's going to get his at a high level. But what I liked about Miles, there was no head hanging. He still went at him offensively, meaning Miles went out there to get his. And I think that's how you counter, especially a guy like that, is you make him work the hardest that he has to work on the other end of the floor, which he really doesn't want to do a lot. You make him run and sprint the floor, which he really doesn't want to do a lot. So even though he puts up big numbers, you put up some nice numbers yourself, and you're looking good. And I felt that was a part of the equation to win on Sunday.
Yeah, no question. And Miles had a pair of 20-point games against Jokic this year and was, I thought, super effective in that second half, especially the third quarter. And while Jokic had 29 points in the first half, he only had 12 in the second half. And think about that last possession when he turned it over. Give a lot of credit to Miles out on the perimeter. And I think that's what people don't really recognize. I mean, those are the people that just look at the box score and look at rebounds. Miles Turner had to spend a lot of time guarding Jokic on the perimeter because that's where he's effective with the basketball, looking for his teammates. And I just thought that final defensive possession up to you force Jokic into a turnover basically seals the game for you because there's only 15 seconds left, and now Denver has to foul, and you go to the free throw line and go up 4. So that was a terrific play by Miles, and I think just epitomizes what he's done this year.
What's been the most impressive, outside of the defense, Chris, that you've brought up, the most impressive from last year and a great story, and everybody was really excited about it, to now more of a level of expectations with the same group being brought back? Besides the defensive aspect being better, what else has most impressed you about this group?
Well, I think, so many people talk about the strength of the Western Conference. The Pacers went 21-10 against the West this year. And the 21 wins is the most in Pacers history against the Western Conference. And I think the East has a lot of strength, but if you look at the West, it's pretty balanced, and there are a lot of good teams. So I think that's been really impressive. And I think the other thing, and again, the Pacers are going to face this tonight, they've done a good job, particularly at home, of taking care of business. Your Bachman-Turner overdrive type of games. Yeah. And that's what they need to do tonight because you've got Cleveland twice and Orlando on Friday. Cleveland, of course, the best record in the East, Orlando in the play-in, and you've got a young Washington team with a lot of injuries. Their veterans are not going to play. So you just need to make sure you take care of business. And I would say the numbers say that the Pacers have done that this year. Sure, early in the year, they lost at Charlotte, or they lost at home to Charlotte. They lost a couple of games in Toronto. But for the most part, when you look at the context of the season, the Pacers have done a really good job of taking care of the business that they needed to take care of.
Man, the Pistons last night didn't. They had Sacramento in the second of a back-to-back. Sacramento won in Cleveland the night prior, and then last night in Detroit. But it's kind of interesting because 5 and 6 will be dictated by the end of this regular season, where I believe the Pistons and the Bucks see each other twice, right, to close it out?
Yeah, they do, Friday and Sunday. Milwaukee has Minnesota tonight. They've got another matchup with New Orleans, and then the 2 games with Detroit. And it's pretty much looking we'll just have to wait and see how the week plays out. But I think most people are figuring that it's going to be the Pacers and the Bucks in the first round, a rematch of last year. The difference, hopefully, is that the Pacers maintain home court advantage against Milwaukee. But, any of those series, I think, whether Detroit is able to win a couple of games this weekend against Milwaukee, those are great rivalry series. I don't think either of the 3 teams like each other, and I think that's good. And we'll just have to wait and see. But the best news is, after Sunday, the Pacers will have a week to regroup, to practice, and get ready for what they hope is a long playoff run like we experienced last year.
Is there still – I saw where Doc Rivers mentioned he had hope. How much hope is there that Lillard returns at any point in what is the remainder of the season with Milwaukee?
I don't know. I mean, you're dealing with blood clots and we don't know.
Seems like a long shot, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, when you think about Asar Thompson in Detroit last year, they basically had to shut him down at the end of the season because of that. I mean, you're not just talking about an injury. You're talking about something way more serious. And so the medical people in this league are great, and they will do whatever they need to do, I'm sure, with Damian Lillard. I mean, you hate to see a player of his caliber suffer a situation like that. But, just me as a layperson, it would seem it would be very hard to see him coming back, but we'll just have to wait and see.
And Bobby Portis is returning from his 25-game suspension. Is that tonight, his return?
I'm not sure if it's tonight or if it's the New Orleans game, but
I thought they
back.
play the Timberwolves. They play the Timberwolves tonight. I thought it was the Minnesota game, but I might be wrong about that.
It may be right. So if that's the case, he would be back for the final 4 games of the regular season before the playoffs start in 10 or 12 days.
The one thing that I will question, and this is going back to last postseason, and obviously the Bucks dealt with a multitude of injuries that certainly helped the Pacer cause, but the one constant was a guy that they couldn't count on and finally felt they couldn't count on him to a point to where they needed to trade him, and that is Chris Middleton. And, you get a guy that has availability but not the consistent shot-making ability of Middleton and Kyle Kuzma. I don't at all think that the Bucks, especially for a short playoff series like that, got the better of that particular deal. Maybe that's knowing too much, as we do about Middleton and what he did last year in the postseason, which was impressive. But, wow, you look at that at least from one to the other, and it seems like maybe Milwaukee didn't get the best of that one in a short postseason situation.
Yeah, he just seems like a bucket getter, right?
Yeah.
And he will not play tonight. He's out with the Wizards, but it's what we saw today, I guess, with Michael Malone. It's what have you done for me lately? And I guess the Bucks just figured that they couldn't count on him from an injury standpoint, but I just remember last year in the playoffs, they didn't have Giannis, they didn't have Lillard for a couple of games, and literally the Bucks were on the back of Chris Middleton, and he was willing them down the stretch. So I've been a big fan of him. Remember, he played 1 year in Detroit. He was a second-round draft pick and basically bet on himself with a 1-year deal, and then signed as a free agent in Milwaukee and had been there ever since until he was traded for Kuzma to the Washington Wizards. So, yeah, you're right. It's interesting to watch the Bucks without him because he was such a valuable piece to their championship run a number of years ago. and in particular their playoff runs of the last few years.
The one guy that concerns me is, and he hasn't put up consistent numbers, don't get me wrong, but it just kind of always seems, and I haven't checked this, always seems like he does some offensive damage to the Pacers, is Gary Trent Jr.
Yeah, he's a lot like Malik Beasley. He's a terrific three-point shooter. And again, you're right. If you look at how he's played against the Pacers this year, he's hit a number of shots. And remember, in the final game here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, before Tyrese Halliburton hit the big three and the free throw to win the game, it was Gary Trent Jr. that gave Milwaukee the lead on a really good pass from Giannis. So that's a guy that has stepped right into his role and made some big shots for the Bucks all year long.
It's Chris Denari's got you covered later on tonight in the stretch run of the regular season. And I would say here as of late, and really after the All-Star break, it seems like this is more like it. And the one thing that you notice, and I loved Miles' interview with JJ the other night after the game, because it was almost like Miles knew what the social media sentiment was going to be about the lack of scoring and attempts from Halliburton. And the first thing he said was, you know what? He gets everybody else going. And he got everybody else going, and sometimes he sacrifices his own offense to do just that. And that's the reason why we got over, the reason why we won. I mean, it was just, I thought, a perfect answer to, a sentiment that was running wild in social media. It's like Miles was reading it, but he wasn't. He just kind of knew the circumstances and what would be going on, and I thought he answered it about as professionally and as accordingly as you could.
Well, I've said this. I've done this for 19 years and been around a lot of really, really good teams and locker rooms, but I don't think I've been around a better one than this one. And I think that epitomizes what Miles says. And Tyrese Halliburton does not have a selfish bone in his body. I mean, does he want to be good? Does he want to be great? Absolutely. But he also wants to win. And the other night, Denver was putting two players on him. They were doubling him as much as they could, and he was finding the open man. And when the Pacers needed a shot from him, he was able to deliver. Now, as he said, he goes, I'd like to make more of the shots that I took, but he's always going to try to make the right play. And I just think that's a real testament to him and to what that locker room is all about. It is a very close team. And you hear, you talk about running it back. Well, the Pacers knew they wanted to run it back with a quality group of players and people off the floor. And I think that's been a huge reason why this team has had so much success over the last 2 years.
Pacers TV's got you at 6:30 at the pregame. That tip time is 7, the same right here as Pacer Radio. And the voice of the Pacers on TV, Chris Denari's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Have a great call. Again, you've got back-to-back here at home and then close it out on Sunday on the road in Cleveland. The Pacer magic number to clinch a 4 seed and home court of the first round is a combination of 2 with themselves or with the Bucks. And Chris Denari's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Chris, I appreciate that, man. Have a great call tonight.
All right. Thanks, John.
Chris Denari with us. Yeah, he's right about a lot of things. I don't often bring up the defensive prowess of this team, but it is better. And really more than just marginally better. And while last year I loved it because they had to outpace and certainly outscore the opposition, now it is a little bit better defensively. And believe me, they're not a great defensive team, but it's like we talked about last year. If you're just a little bit better, it's like if you're just a little bit better in rebounding, that's going to be enough. You may not be a great rebounding team ever, and believe me, they won't. You may not be a great defensive team ever, but a little bit counts. And you see it in both capacities with this group, which is a good thing this time of year. Let me take a break. We'll come back. Me and you, honestly, the rest of the way. 239-1070. That number is back and working, right? Got 8 minutes if anything goes after 6?
About 8.5.
8.5, says James. Hey, remind me the next time I go with the lemon, pepper, garlic, tuna, not to. Okay?
Not a fan?
It's funny. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but this is how I feel. If you watched a couple of shots, and I had meant to mention this to Chris Denary, but if you were watching the Pacers in Denver on Sunday night, there were a couple of different shots of Jokic. He was at the free throw line. Not shooting, but he was on the line. I think one of the Pacers were shooting, and they showed Jokic, and I swear he belched like 3 times. You know how when you belch, like if you're watching inside the AAA membership lounge for the YouTube Live, and you don't go or anything like that, just like that, 3 times. It kind of looks like you're like dry heaving or going to barf, and it wasn't like this huge thing you could just like that. I swear he belched 3 times. That's what I feel like right now.
Had a little bit of that indigestion, I guess.
It looked like he had a little bit of indigestion while he was in the free throw lane. But that's kind of this lemon, pepper, garlic tuna.
That's kind of what it's doing to you right now.
I went away from the normal Star Kiss pouch to the chicken of the sea, and I may not do that again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like it's bad, but yeah, it's.
Do you need Tums? Because I have Tums on me.
I don't, no. No, it's not that heavy duty, but I can just notice it right here. And I lemon pepper is just not my thing.
Maybe your body's become so used to just eating tuna and cottage cheese that it's just rejecting
this is tuna, but it's lemon. It's lemon.
Fair.
It's lemon, pepper, garlic, which is a hell of a combination. Normally, I go with hickory smoked, and I dig the hickory smoked or the ranch, but hickory smoked for the most part.
Lemon pepper garlic sounds like it'd go great on wings. I'm not so sure about tuna.
Yeah, it's not working out for me. I swear I'm like doing my Jokic there, waiting on somebody to shoot a free throw and belching like 3 times. You go back and watch that. I swear to you, he's belching. That's what you do when you don't want to burp out loud, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like old guys do that. It's like an old guy burp. You burp and you kind of know what you've eaten during the day. Or consumed, yeah.
So that's what you're dealing with right now?
A little bit of that, yeah.
That's good to know.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I'm trying to be Mr. Reliable right here, not cutting loose. I could shut the mic off and if I wanted to.
I appreciate, since I'm in a enclosed environment with you, that you're not doing
sitting
that.
Right across from you right here.
I appreciate it.
Never forget that. Blink 182 and me and you the rest of the way at 239-1070. How about that? Tomorrow's show, I mentioned the Indy Ignite coming up on Saturday. This is going to be a must-attend. Katie Baird, I say kind of brand new to the program there. And the sister of Dusty Baird, who I play basketball with every Sunday morning, either at Southport or Center Grove. Katie joins us, the pride of Perry Meridian and a former Stanford Cardinal standout. Now, the Indy Ignite's going to join us on the show tomorrow. And again, Thursday and Friday, I am going to be out. Next week is going to be incredibly busy. I shall explain, and I will promote the JMV Takeover on tomorrow's show as well, given the fact I won't be here Thursday and Friday. I think I've got to make a run to GC, and I think G wants to go to Jasper. Does anybody want to go to DuBois County on Friday? I believe that's going to be the case. Do we know who's in Thursday and Friday for me yet?
Thursday's Brian No.
Brian No Thursday.
Friday is Greg Rakestraw.
Greg Rakestraw on Friday. Well done right there. So Thursday and Friday out. All right, me, you, rest of the way, as I mentioned, at 239-1070. Stream the app, HD Radio, AAA membership allowed. It's YouTube Live, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
Ahoy, Ploy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, crank it up. Carb Day 2025, May the 23rd. We're going to be out there, per usual, in Pagoda Plaza. We are going to celebrate with that band from the state of Oklahoma, the All-American Rejects. And our good friend Brett Michaels will headline. Tickets available now. That's IndianapolisMotorSpeedway.com, IMS.com. Get your tickets to the May 23rd extravaganza. That thing cannot get here quick enough. I'm not talking about giving you tickets right now. This is promoting the fact you can get tickets now. But the thing is going to occur on the 23rd of May, and we are inching closer and closer to that date. Let me tell you this. We all need a carb day. In fact, we need a carb day in an hour. But we sure as hell will need a carb day by the time we get to May the 23rd. Brett Michaels, the All-American Rejects. Carb Day 2025. It's funny. I am shooting videos tomorrow, I believe, with one President Doug Bowles. So, IMS Prez, IndyCar Prez, Doug Bowles. He's got dual roles now. I wonder if he got a raise. Can I ask him that? Do you get a raise on those dual roles?
I'm sure he'd be fine with answering that. Everyone loves talking about what they get paid on air.
Well, yeah, exactly. We are going to shoot a video tomorrow with Doug. So I can't wait. And you guys have asked this for the JMV takeover. No, normally the night before the 500, because I do pre-race. Tony Katz and all of us do pre-race for all of our stations on race day morning. It's my favorite, too, because I never get a chance to throw it to traffic. Like across the hall, they throw it to traffic every, 10 or so minutes, right? So I get to throw it. It's my specialty to throw it to Matt Bear in traffic on race day. But we're already out there. And normally, you know this, when I do the JMV takeover, I will go past midnight because I don't get any sleep anyway, so what the hell? So I have heard, and I actually asked Michelle this a little bit earlier, I have heard that maybe the JMV takeover will be a live event, and I've heard the Coke lot being thrown around and some other destinations out there too, so we shall see. But it's going to be all a part of a weekend that, holy hell, do we all need. Who's with me on that? Carb Day 2025, May the 23rd. Get your tickets now and just be a part of the fun with us. You know this to be true. You may think what I have to say stinks and I'm stupid and, you don't have enough of vocabulary. You're not very smart. And listen, all of that can be true and probably is more true than I even understand. But, man, there's one thing that is also true. I am the Pied Piper of fun. And if you're anywhere in the general vicinity of me, you are going to have a good time. Not too far away. Closing in. Carb Day 2025. Can't wait to see Doug Bowles coming up tomorrow, by the way. Skivvy says, maybe Joker's belches were foreshadows of things to come for the coach. Might have been. Michael Malone fired. General manager Calvin Booth fired. Right now, Denver out west is a 4 seed. And they fire their guys. What's this restricted thing say on there? Why? That's weird. Is that just on mine or yours?
Does it say restricted for you?
It says that, yeah.
I don't know.
This is Jimmy at 239-1070 right now. Hello, Jimmy.
Hey, what's up, JMV? How you doing, my friend?
Thank you for the invite. I'm sorry I could not go. I had to pick up Blake, but you were awesome to invite me. And if you are ever in need of some company again, I am right there.
Anytime for you, John. I heard you reminiscing last week or the week before about you going to NIT with my dad and
Yes.
and Jake and all those guys. And
Awesome.
We always love having you, and you're welcome anytime.
You know how fun that was at Hinkle Fieldhouse for the NIT last year? Because it's funny, because I am so invested in Indiana State, and that was, even if it was the NIT, it was so out of nowhere and so exciting, and it was a tremendous time.
Yeah, and I was, we were all Sycamores then, John. So
yes, we were, buddy.
Hopefully in the future we could get back to those glory times for you. So, hey, two things real quick.
Yeah.
One, I just wanted to say I'm happy for Florida that they won last night. I didn't want to see Denim Shirt win the national title, so I'm happy for Elijah Martin, the former FAU player who played with your boy Dusty Bay.
Elijah Martin, indeed.
And our family, we're good friends with Todd Abernathy and his family, so we know a lot about Elijah Martin, and I was happy to see him get the job done with Florida last night. And last thing, I wanted to throw this out there and see what you think. I'm, as you know, I'm a Cubs fan, and you're a Reds fan.
Yes.
But I was thinking about maybe next month or sometime this season doing another Reds caravan for a Cubs-Reds game in Cincinnati. And I wanted to get your thoughts. I know.
Oh, I think that would be perfect. Those were the old school days with Brent Holverson and Randy Strand with Heaven Hill, where we all jumped on buses and went over there. Those were epic journeys, man. Great time.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be driving, so. But you and my good friend Kevin Bowen are great Reds fans and great people to me. So I just thought of that idea. And John, you have a great night, my friend. Take care.
You got it. Thank you, Jimmy. That's a hell of a plan, right? Another Reds caravan. Hey, by the way, Reds a winner. If anybody caught that last night, I don't know how many of you did staying up after the national championship game or considering how the Reds had played up until that point. But Hunter Green was incredible. And they just left him in there. 8 2/3, which is such a rarity. Here's what was odd about it. He goes 8 2/3 last night, gets the win. Logan Webb on the other side for the Giants goes 7 strong. He gets a no decision, but that's a rarity nowadays. So the Reds a winner last night. Cubs fans, I'm sure, were thrilled. Get a 7-inning effort out of Justin Steele in a win. Shut out of the Rangers. And you get the Reds and the Giants coming up at 9:45. That is later on tonight. Cubs and Rangers, 7:40. What's the weather going to be like at Wrigley? It looked absolutely ridiculous there last night. The AccuWeather forecast, James, says there is a high of 38 degrees. That's not great. Wrigley Field later on tonight. Cubs are 8-5 on the season. Rangers 8-3. That's a 7:40 first pitch. The Reds 4-7. The Giants are 8-2. Nick Lodolo gets the ball for the Reds coming up later on tonight. Cardinals Pirates from PNC, where it's going to be a nice 38-degree effort there in Pittsburgh. Sonny Gray getting the start for the Cardinals. They're 4-6. Baseball this afternoon. White Sox, Guardians, no score. Bottom of the 6th inning. That's in Cleveland. And the Marlins and the Mets are tied at 2. The bottom of the 5th inning going on in Queens. Yankees, Tigers earlier today. The Tigers shut out the Yankees 5-0 in Detroit. All right, Pacers and the Wizards coming up later on tonight. James, I did want to remind you of this, too. Seth Montgomery from Indiana State wants us to get their AD on tomorrow. Nathan Christensen. Can we do that tomorrow? Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yep. So I say we do it. And we'll get the AD on to talk about stuff at Indiana State. A little bit of Indiana State love is what we're going to do coming up on tomorrow's show, too. Get that set and ready for you. All right, Blink 182 before we bail, and about 8.5 minutes of Anything Goes before we hit it up. to the Daily Update with the Colts. That's Matt Taylor, the Gorman, and Casey Valier. That will lead up to Pacer pregame right here on a Wednesday. Check that, a Tuesday, because tomorrow's Wednesday. Sorry, late night. Wizards Pacers later on tonight. Tip time 7 o'clock. Your coverage right here on The Fan. Don't go anywhere. Anything goes, and a closeout with me and you next.
The Ride with JMV.
Thank you for your support.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It sounds like Blink 182. I think they aren't annually here, but I think often they hit around here, don't they? Blink 182 at Ruoff Music Center coming up this summer. Number 9 at 239-1070 will go on us right now. This is Wednesday, September the 17th, by the way. Wednesday, September the 17th. And shout out to Live Nation who just sent these down, I think, earlier in the week, which would have been yesterday or maybe even Sunday for that matter. But Wednesday, September the 17th, Ruoff Music Center, Blink 182. And a show just for you. We got tickets for the remainder of the week. We'll be giving away right here. Thank you very much. Yeah, I saw this. J-Law with the Reds transactions. 10-day injured list goes Matt McClain. Will Benson is back up from AAA Louisville. Matt McClain on the injured list, which is beyond a bummer right there. I saw this a little bit earlier, too. Pascal Siakam is in tonight. Ben Shepherd remains out tonight off the Pacer bench. Pascal Siakam is back. That's a tip time against the Wizards tonight at 7 o'clock. 6:30 coverage begins right here on the Fan. So the first of 3 at home to close out the home portion of the regular season. It is Washington tonight. Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Cleveland's in town. And then Orlando on Friday at 7. They close out the regular season on the road Sunday in Cleveland. The magic number is 2 to clinch the 4-hole in the Eastern Conference playoff picture, which would give them home court in the first round, which is a good thing. A head-scratcher of all head-scratchers today, too. Michael Malone, who back in 2023 won an NBA title with the Nuggets. Both he and general manager Calvin Booth relieved of their duties. They are 4th right now in the Western Conference playoff picture. Now, again, 4 through 8 out west is the difference in like a half game. But 4th out west and a former championship coach, along with the general manager, jettisoned by the Nuggets a little bit earlier today. And to me, that is even more ridiculous than doing what Memphis did last week. Like, to me, Memphis is just always ripe to do something really weird or to have something really odd or awkward or ridiculous happen to them. And you can kind of get it, the general manager and the coach not getting along, and one's going to go, and it was the coach in this case. But in Denver, it's like both. They're the 4 seed presently out west. Big news today. National championship game, Florida a winner. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Dane Fife was on the show. Transfer portal, IU's new head coach, the transfer portal for the Boilermakers. Dane Fife podcast, 1075thefan.com. What I think to be a lot more high school coaches deciding to step away from coaching their teams at their schools so far after the ending of the season. We talked to Greg Rakestraw about that a little bit earlier. That podcast at 1075thefan.com, and voice of the Pacers, Chris Denari, also on this show. All right, quick break. We'll come back. About 8.5 minutes we have for Anything Goes. That's coming up on the other side in front of the Colts Daily Update, which is prior to the Pacer pregame show. So Anything Goes, 239-1070, me and you. That is coming up next. Anything Goes, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
awesome. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, a little over 7 minutes for some Anything Goes. If you guys want to jump on in at 239-1070, a little extra time means we talk about whatever you want to talk about here. I don't care what it is. Music, entertainment, jackassery, tomfoolery, JMV-ery. Whatever you want to do here for the next 7.5 or so minutes before the Colts Daily Update, we shall get you there. The general public had a cover of I Take You There. Was that the Staples Singers back in the 70s? I'll Take You There. And then in the 90s, I'll Take You There. Was that in the film Threesome? Was I the only one that went to see the film in the 90s, Threesome? It really didn't turn out to be what I thought it was going to be. And I should have known when Josh Charles was the star. And if you remember, Josh Charles was also the star of somewhat of a cult following enjoyable film of the 90s. I want to say 1991. Do you guys remember Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead? Josh Charles. Threesome. Hey, let's go see that. That sounds great. Oh, man, there's a lot of dialogue in this. Wait a minute. I'm getting caught up in the dialogue. That stanks. I mentioned, too, a little bit earlier, Nikola Jokic had an incredible game against the Pacers, so much so that the Nuggets lose and then fire their coach and general manager a day later. Over the past 5 games, this is how ridiculous he has been. Are you ready for this ridiculousness? 40 points a game, over 12 rebounds per, nearly 10 assists. So think about this. That is a tick away from averaging a 40-point triple-double. What in the hell? Think about that for a moment, too. So the Pacers survive that, get a road win in Denver on Sunday night. He goes for, 41 in that game? He goes for 41, and you just feel good to get the hell out of Dodge with the win. And then a day later, they get rid of their head coach, who had won a title in 2023, their general manager. That's Calvin Booth and Michael Malone. Incredible stuff right there. You can't write a script like that. Absolutely nuts it is. JMV, so I'm watching that game last night. Is it just me, or could nobody shoot straight in the first half? No, it wasn't you. You didn't really have to watch it. If you just listened to it, everything sounded like somebody tossed a rock up on the rim. And then half the time, hell, it didn't even hit the rim. It hit the backboard. But it was rough. I will say this. It was entertaining. It was entertaining. And you got to give credit where credit is due with Florida, because they didn't start out really performing well and trying to match the aggressiveness of Houston. But as an end result, that's really how they put that away. Yeah, along with, I guess their defense led to some or a couple of the worst possessions in the history of late game situations in the most important game of the season. Incredible. And Houston's final possession was absolutely ridiculous. But no, it was entertaining. I think I was entertained. I went directly from that to a 1976 episode of Quincy, right to Quincy. I love me some Quincy. But it was entertaining last night. All right, we'll see if the Pacers can be entertaining as well. 18.5-point favorites at home over Washington. Pascal Siakam is back. Ben Shepherd is out. That's the way things look against the Wiz. And again, it is 2-game magic number here. Couple of wins by the Pacers, couple of losses by the Bucks, and the Pacers will win that 4 seed. That means home court in the first round of the postseason. And then as it stands right now, the competition in round number 1 would be the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll see how that plays out. They're certainly in the driver's seat, 5-6 right now with the Pistons riding in 6th. The Pistons lose at home last night to Sacramento. However, they do face one another, the Pistons and the Bucks, twice to end the season. So we'll see how that ends up going. But the Pacers and the Wizards, that's the first of 3 to close out the regular season home schedule. Tonight against the Wizards, Cleveland on Thursday, and Orlando coming up on Friday. They close out the regular season on the road in Cleveland. That is coming up on Sunday. Hey, tomorrow, by the way, too, Katie Baird, new member of the Indy Ignite. Indy Ignite have a big deal going on. That's on the 12th. That's Saturday. The Ignite, Grand Rapids. You want to make sure you're a part of the pregame party and make sure you get yourself some tickets and head out and check out the Indy Ignite, the Fishers Event Center, coming up on Saturday. Katie Baird, who is the sister of a guy I play basketball with, pickup-wise, every single Sunday morning. Dusty Baird. Katie Baird joins us on the show coming up tomorrow. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, maybe a little Indiana State flavor on the show tomorrow as well. Nathan Christensen, their AD, I believe, is scheduled in. Kevin Bowen also on the show tomorrow, and Blink 182 tickets a part of the show tomorrow. James, great job out of you. Chris Denary, JJ tomorrow too, by the way. Chris Denary, Dane Fife, Greg Rakestraw, podcast 1075thefan.com. The Colts Daily Update is next, followed by Pacer pregame. Pacers and Wizards tonight. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Enjoy the game.